Malaysian Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim has unveiled his list of deputy ministers. 28 names were announced across the different ministries and only one to each ministry, with the exception of finance, which will have two. They're set to be sworn in tomorrow at 3 p.m. Now, just last week, Mr. Anwar presented his lean 28-member cabinet, including himself handling the finance portfolio. Parties that make up the unity government are also set to sign a coalition agreement next week to ensure stability. Foreign Affairs Minister Zamri Kadir says that they are close to having a final draft after multiple discussions with the parties. But doubts have been raised on whether all parties in the coalitions will sign. Meanwhile, the country's anti-corruption agency says that its probe into alleged misappropriation of funds will focus on the $21 billion COVID management budget. The allocation was made under the previous Perikatan Nasional-led government. The probe aligns with Mr. Anwar's declaration that he will review projects and plans approved by past administrations as part of his election promise to fight corruption. For more, CNA's Afifah Arifin joins us live from the Prime Minister's office in Putrajaya. That's where Mr. Anwar has named his deputies. Afifah, what do you make of this list of deputy ministers? What does it say about the unity government?
That's right. So we know that Mr. Anwar Ibrahim, the Prime Minister of Malaysia, was just here earlier announcing the list of the deputy ministers who will be in his cabinet. It's quite unclear at this point because he was a very brief announcement and he was speaking really fast. But as of our tally, we do realize that he has given the Finance Ministry 2 deputies and all other ministries will just have 1 deputy each. And this is very much in line with what he wants to do for his new administration, which is to make it a much leaner cabinet. Right now, the total number of members in cabinet stands about 54, 55. It's much leaner compared to the cabinets of his predecessors, some of them having cabinets totaling up to about 70 members, something that many have said is a bloated or oversized cabinet, and this is something that Mr. Anwar Ibrahim does not want. Of course, we know that deciding this list of deputy ministers hasn't been easy. It comes a week after the cabinet ministers were announced last week, and for him, appeasing, the various political parties in his coalition is a very tough balancing act that he has to do. But of course, he said that after discussing with all of the common parties in this so-called unity government, they have decided that these are the members who will form the government at this point. The announcement also comes ahead of that coalition agreement that's set to be signed by all of the political parties in his administration sometime next week. And it's hoped that that agreement will be able to bring some sort of political stability and chart the direction for this administration.
Well, they have plenty to tick off on that to-do list. Afifah, economic recovery, pandemic recovery, as well as tackling government corruption on Mr. Anwar's list. What other significant issues, though, is this new government going to be facing?
Well, of course, since taking power in November, there have been a lot of teething issues for this new coalition government that really has to figure out a way of doing things, because it's something that's been unprecedented. Bitter rivals now working together in the same administration. Forming the cabinet, of course, is one example. But, as the new Prime Minister and the Finance Minister, Anwar Ibrahim, has asked for a probe to look into the misappropriation of certain funds used for the COVID-19 stimulus packages by the previous administrations, totaling to about 530 billion ringgit. And on this, the Anti-Corruption Commission in Malaysia has issued a statement today saying that they will only look into about 92.5 billion ringgit, or about $21 million, because that was the amount of public funds that was used. Of course, like I said, this is related to the funds allegedly misappropriated by the previous government, according to Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim, and that involved former Prime Minister Muhyiddin Yassin and also former Finance Minister Tengku Zafrul Aziz, who is currently in his administration as the Trade and Industry Minister. So the MACC has said that the Finance Ministry is currently looking through the relevant documents. They will provide a breakdown to the Commission sometime next week.
Afifah, thank you. Afifah Arifin there speaking to us live from Putrajaya.